the Iraq War very vociferously, and I believe that was the beginning of the end of his tenure and reputation in the UK, certainly. But it's interesting to chart what's happened with him since. He became a Middle East peace envoy. He's put an awful amount of hours and time and effort into...
So in this clip, Mehdi Hasan is going to do what Mehdi Hasan does the best. Mehdi Hasan is going to break up many lies that were told about this particular day. I won't say this day online because it's crazy. Anyway, but this particular date, rather. But Mehdi Hasan is going to, of course, as usual, take over the Piers Morgan stage. We also have a clip of one of these people, these special chosen people, getting absolutely dismantled by from their lies. Mehdi Hasan is going to do what Mehdi Hasan does best. I don't know how many other ways I can say it. Let's just get right into the clip.
To trying to resolve a difficulty over there. And all right, it's like putting the fox in the hen coop. I totally get all that. I do remember having a long conversation with him before I went to interview Netanyahu for CNN, where his understanding of the conflict and the difficulties and the problems, everything was extraordinary. There's no doubt about that. And I'm also reminded of what he achieved in Northern Ireland, which was another seemingly intractable problem between the Protestants and the IRA, and no one thought it could ever be resolved. And Blair put the hours in, worked with Clinton, worked with Mitchell and the others, and they finally got a deal done. Sometimes, and in that deal, of course, Martin McGuinness and Jerry Adams, who'd been, senior IRA figures, became, senior politicians. So there's a kind of, there's a background here which I think has to be taken in totality. Is it completely insane that somebody like him can form a group which at least supervise a transition, potentially, hopefully, to a place where Palestine gets a recognizable state of its own?
So, big picture, I think the entire idea of Trump, Blair, anyone else on this board is insane. The whole problem with Palestine is it's a legacy of colonialism. We don't need more Western colonialism. We need more self-determination. If you want to bring in local Arab countries, fine. Even that will be problematic. But really, it has to be led by people on the ground, not by outsiders. Donald Trump couldn't find Gaza on a map if his life depended on it. And Tony Blair, let me deal with Blair specifically. So, obviously, you and I opposed the Iraq War. It was a disaster. He lied. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a war crime. Tony Blair should be heading to The Hague, not to Gaza. I wrote a piece for Zeteo laying out the case against Blair being involved in the future of Gaza. People can read it at Zeteo.com. I will just be very brief and say this. He has hundreds of thousands of Arabs' blood on his hands. The idea that you would go to Gaza where Arabs are being killed for the last 2 years and that Blair, of all people, has any credibility with the Palestinian people. I've not met a single Palestinian who views him as anything other than a war criminal. And even if you put Iraq to one side, you mentioned his Middle East envoy role for the quartet between 2007 and 2015. It was a complete failure. Everyone agrees it was a failure. Go back and read the Financial Times editorial the day he resigned. They said it was a complete failure. He got nothing done. He was seen as just a proxy for the Israelis. He would say whatever the Israelis wanted. And that leads me to my last point. You rightly raised Northern Ireland. The reason he succeeded with Mo Mowlam and Clinton and Jonathan Powell and others in Northern Ireland is because Britain ended up being a fair broker. Both sides could trust them. Of course, both sides had their criticisms, the Unionists and the Sinn Féin side especially. But ultimately, Britain was trying to bring that conflict to an end in a way that involved talking to everyone. They've never applied that logic to the Middle East. Blair doesn't see Palestinians as equal to Israel. He is self-confessed a pro-Israel guy. This is the problem with all Western interventions when it comes to Palestine. They're never neutral brokers. The United States is not an impartial negotiator. To quote Aaron David Miller, a former Clinton negotiator, we are Israel's lawyer. That is what the US is. That is what the West is. That is certainly what Tony Blair is. So yeah, he doesn't have any credibility. And by the way, don't even get me started on the conflicts of interest. The guy makes money from deals every time he's in the Middle East. Him and Jared Kushner have no credibility. They're both making money on side deals in the Middle East while they're trying to bring supposedly peace and redevelopment to Gaza. Zero credibility, Piers. It'll end in tears.
Talking of people making a lot of money, Barry Weiss, formerly of the New York Times, has just sold her free press business of just 4 years standing to Paramount. David Ellison has bought it, the new boss of Paramount, and she's been put in charge of CBS News. Some people on the pro-Palestinian side are very concerned because she has obviously very pro-Israeli history. Are you concerned, or are you also, given that you and I and others have made a similar leap into the brave world of individuals running their own kind of media entities, and she's obviously a massive success story in a very rapid period of time. What do you make of what's happened with Barry Weiss and the Free Press, and are you concerned about maybe whatever influence she may have on CBS News?
Yeah. No, I'm very concerned, and sorry to do a second plug for Zateo. I don't normally do this, but we just ran a big piece last night from my colleague Prem Thakur talking to insiders at CBS News who make the point that some of the stuff that Barry Weiss ran at the Free Press wouldn't even meet CBS editorial standards. They would get fired at CBS for running that stuff. CBS News it's not perfect. I have many criticisms of CBS News, like you do of all mainstream media, but they just ran a very good investigation last week, Piers, about how Israel bombed the flotilla in Tunisia, even denying it was them. But they spoke to US intelligence and showed that actually Netanyahu signed off on a drone strike on the flotilla. Is that the kind of story that Barry Weiss would publish under her reign at CBS News? She is a self-described, Zionist fanatic, right? The idea that a quote-unquote neutral media organization is led by someone who has a long history of being a pro-Israel ideologue, who has a history of trying to censor Palestinian voices when she was at university, who just ran a piece saying the starvation in Gaza is fake. It's not true. Nobody's starving in Gaza. That level of editorial standards, that level of bias being brought to 60 Minutes, to CBS, it's really worrying. And you and I, you do a show called Piers Uncensored. I think there'll be a lot more censorship of Palestinian voices than there already is now at CBS News with her in charge. David Ellison, the guy who's hired her, the son of Larry Ellison. Again, the Ellison family is very, very pro-Israel. Larry Ellison is the biggest single private donor to the Israeli military, to friends of...
This is crazy. So you see what I'm saying? Like, I can't even, find a way. Like, he's been going on and going on. I'm afraid there's going to be copyright because I've let Mehdi Hasan just keep talking because he's a wealth of knowledge. Mehdi Hasan is a wealth of knowledge. Mehdi Hasan is dropping massive truth bombs right now about even our media situation. Larry Ellison is like buying TikTok. And then now his son, David Ellison, is making Barry Weiss, who I would allegedly called an allegedly Israeli spy, the head of CBS. I mean, what is it, bro? I mean, after a while, the stereotypes start to be a little like, I don't know. But, I'm just saying. Mehdi Hasan is dropping mad truth bombs, and it's so true. That's all I can say. Please don't forget the like and subscribe button and the notification bell. Thanks to every eye that's watching this video.
IDF. They've made very clear what their biases are. They've made very clear why they're hiring her. They've made very clear why they're buying TikTok. Because as you said in the introduction, Piers, public opinion is turning against Israel. So these folks are doubling down on messaging, doubling down on trying to control what we see and hear online and on TV. So it's very worrying for those of us who believe in free speech.
Well, let's see. I give her the benefit of the doubt. I tweeted her today to congratulate her on an amazing deal.
I saw.
Whatever people think, it's an amazing turnaround.
I mean, you and I know it's not worth you and I both know it's not worth $150 million. That is the Ellisons taking care of Barry Weiss.
Mehdi, you and I should absolutely pray that these businesses are worth that much in such a short period of time, because then you and I will be laughing all the way to the bank. But no, I do remember her being kind of forced out of the New York.
I really look at he's like, inshallah. And he's pissing them off when he says, yo, look at his face. Like, look at him. He has this cute little smile. He's like, ha, got him. Like, I don't know. I'm fangirling a little bit on Mehdi Hasan, but I appreciate, I don't agree all the time with everything he says. But when he's kicking it, he's kicking it. I wanted to also, again, I believe this is Abby Martin with John, that guy from Jonathan Concreus or something. He always pisses people off pretty well. I'm just kind of, I don't know, is that Abby Martin? That can't be.
Jonathan, I think you just support it. You want the genocide.
Abby, let me just jump in there. Abby, on this issue of genocide, you are aware that no country has ever been found guilty of actual genocide, are you?
What point is this question?
That even in Rwanda,
what is the point of that question? We know
it was determined that the legal threshold for
every
a genocide
single
was not
genocide
met.
scholar, even though, okay, so
my point is that
you're looking at Gaza today and you're saying that you've agreed that it's a genocide, Piers.
No, I've never agreed that. I've said that I believe what has been going on.
Okay, so sure.
No, because simply for the reason I've just stated, There's never been a legally determined genocide declared anywhere
let's get
in the
him to
world.
court. Let's go to court with Israel.
That's
Okay,
what I
let's
think.
see. Let's see the evidence.
That's what I
laid
think
bare.
would be sensible, right? I think it would be sensible to do that and actually get.
Okay, so what's his name is Piers Morgan is getting scared. I understand, and it's okay. I'm really shocked that he just did that because he did start to agree.
Data and by reality. Now, according to the numbers and statistics and the globally accustomed numbers of the IPC, which they follow, they issued a declaration that on August 22nd, there's famine in certain parts of Gaza. By their own numbers of level 4 and 5, emergency and famine, there should have been 9,500 dead Palestinians by malnutrition, not natural deaths, not combat, not pre-existing conditions, 9,500 dead Palestinians since August 22nd. You know how many there really have been? According to Hamas numbers, 191. That's 98% off. Now, I challenge you and I challenge everybody who have been screaming and were part of the starvation campaign and the famine, all of the other nonsense that we heard with UN regalia attached to it. At the end of the day, it's a fake. It's lies. It is not supported by reality. It's make-believe and it is propaganda against Israel that useful idiots who have no bearing on the situation on the ground are parroting just because it is a weapon
But you wouldn't
against
dispute,
Israel.
Jonathan.
It is untrue.
But
It is not
Jonathan,
factual.
Okay,
we
but hang on,
can
hang
see
on,
the photos,
hang on,
right?
Hang on, but Jonathan, you wouldn't dispute that there was a near 3-month blockade of substantial amounts of food and aid. I mean, that was indisputable. That happened.
There were indeed months where not a lot was coming in. Yes.
Right. But
that's true. But the important part, Piers, but the important part is what was the result? The important part is, okay, that was done by Israel and it was said by Israeli leadership. It was challenged by the defense establishment and there were a lot of internal discussions. But at the end of the day, when UN affiliated organizations declared famine and every journalist, editor, media personality and talking heads repeated that as if that was gospel, nobody looks at the numbers. And even today, a month and a half after that, is anybody held accountable for these libellous, false, grotesque claims?
Well, why don't
Isn't it supposed to mean something?
Why don't we agree? Why don't we agree? Okay. So why don't we? I will come to you. So why don't we agree? Rather like with genocide, right? I have believed that the rhetoric coming out of Smodrich and Ben-Gvir in particular has made it clear there's been a policy by large sections of this government of ethnic cleansing. They would like to see all the Palestinians gone from Gaza and preferably the West Bank too. Thankfully, in this new plan, that is no longer apparently something that will be sustained by the American government, which means...
So Piers Morgan is delusional, but we won't get into that. This is not a geopolitical channel. Actually, I'm working on that. And that's all. But this guy always gets people. Oh, I'm glad I got him like that. Look at his silly face. Sorry, Piers. He looks really bad here. All right, guys. With that said, I just pretty much enjoyed Mehdi Hasan in the clip. I'll see you guys at the next one. Bye.